Beginner's guide time once again then for Marvel Future Revolution. Now in this series of videos we cover everything you need to know about the various different heroes that are available in the game. Now it has just launched globally, however I've been playing for the last 2 months and I have all heroes at level 100. That's how I'm able to get these videos out as soon as the game is actually globally launched. Now what will we be covering in this beginner's guide video? So we start off with an overview of the characters so you can see if you actually like the sound of them and you want to find out more about them. If you do, we then follow that up talking about the character's potential. This is various different stats that are specific to them you can actually invest in. We have Specialisations up next. We'll then check out some of their skills. We don't look at all of them because heroes have access to 32 skills in total, so we just check out a few of the more interesting ones, which once again gives you a good idea of how the hero actually plays. We then talk about the outfits, battle badges and mega cards that would work on the hero, and then finishing up we run over a few fun build options that I've been playing around with. Now the hero, as you can see on screen at the moment, is of course Storm. So we'll jump in and we'll start off with the overview first. Storm then is an incredibly good hero. Her playstyle is AoE crowd control caster. She has access to both shock and chill status effects, and she actually has one of the best, if not the best, defensive skills in the game, and she has an amazing single target ability as well. So she's got defense, she's got single target damage, and she's got AoE damage as well. Now in regards to crowd control, of course she has her shock and her chill, but she's actually got numerous skills that can knock down or knock back or even lift up the enemy. This cannot be resisted the same way that it can actually happen with status effects. So when it comes to your regular mobs, you can push and pull them all over the screen and it is a huge amount of fun. One of the few downsides she does have, and I would say it might even be the only downside she does have, is the fact that many of her skills have quite long casting animations. So when it comes to picking her skills, definitely take that into account, because sometimes when you're casting them you can be a bit of a sitting duck. But that's a quick overview of Storm, so let's now jump in and talk about the potential that's available on her. Hero potential then is specific stats that you can actually spec into on your character. Now once you reach level 100 you'll possibly only be about a third of the way through this system, so you won't be maxing out for a long time, so you want to prioritise which stats you actually go for. Now the in-game UI is a bit all over the place, so what I've done is I've actually made some infographics of quite a lot of the screens here to make it a lot easier to talk about the various different sections. So let's jump into the infographic for this section. With this infographic then we actually break down all the different sections, but the most important part really is the total down the bottom. So all heroes will have access to attack, defense and hit points. They'll have access to different levels of that, but you want to spec into that because that'll be good on all heroes. You then have 3 specific stats that are down the bottom, and generally these will be tailored towards the hero. So you have guard damage here, you can get up to 14%. Personally, I couldn't really recommend that. Yes, it's nice to break the guard on an enemy, but I prefer to just kill them instead and take them out. Next up we have cooldown decrease, 4.2%. It's a small amount, but this could be worthwhile going for. And then really important, if you're actually looking to run either the chill or the shock build, which is your crowd control build on Storm, you've got debuff accuracy. This makes it so you're more likely to be successful when actually applying a debuff, so this is a really important one to go for. Now bear in mind as well that you can actually get these various different stats via your battle cards, your cores and your outfits as bonus stats on them as well. So if you don't pick it up here, there's other places you can get the stats that you're looking for. But next up, let's have a look at the specialisations. Your hero specialisations are unlocked at level 70 then. You can only equip 4 of them at a time, but they are incredibly powerful. On top of that, the currency that comes from them is farmed from your raids, so it is time gated, so it takes a fair amount of time to actually start to fill these out. So you want to make sure you select the right ones. So let's actually skip from the in-game UI to another infographic. The 3 different specialisation trees you have then actually fit the 3 different forms of crowd control she has. So you've got chill, shock and you've got knocking enemies down as well. But if we look at the first tree, this is the ice tree. You've got heavy snow, so this decreases deep freeze class skill cooldown by a whopping 27.5%. That's for all deep freeze class skills. If you were to use that, you're going to have to use stamina recovery alongside it, otherwise you will run out, because that is a substantial reduction there. We then have Snowy Wind, so creates a chill explosion to deal damage equal to 105% of attack upon landing a Deep Freeze class skill. Cooldown of 5 seconds. These generally don't do an insane amount of damage, but if you were running a lot of your Deep Freeze skills and this is the build you're going for, I would say you would want to go for this as well. Looking at Frostbite here, it increases duration of debuff dealt to enemy by 30%. That can be decent, but the shock and also the chill debuff, they are nice, but personally I prefer the burn where you do 20% increased damage, so I'm not sure I would actually go for this one, given we can only have 4 different specialisations at a time. I think there are better ones out there, even if you are running down the ice tree. Looking at the final one in this tree anyway, it's Blizzard. It increases chill damage by 6% for each equipped Deep Freeze class skill. In total, over the different trees, you could equip up to 4 of these, so it means you could get a 24% damage increase, which is certainly a real nice amount. Moving on to the next tree here, we have the lightning abilities. This is the one the majority of people are running, it would seem, and if I was to heavily invest in Storm, this is the one I would go for myself. You can put out a huge amount of damage with it. Now, the first specialisation is Rain Ritual, so increases shock damage by 5% for each equipped Lightning Cloud class skill. You can have up to 4 maximum for this particular skill, so that would be a 20% damage increase, definitely worthwhile going for if you're running a lightning build. We have Thunderbolt next, 50% chance to stack shock by 1 upon applying shock. The shock debuff reduces enemy damage by 25%, so that can help out with survivability, so the sooner you can actually get that on them, the better. So this would be worthwhile once again for a lightning build. Lightning Rod is up next, creates chain lightnings that spread to up to 3 enemies to deal damage equal to 135% of attack when attacking, cooldown of 8 seconds, definitely worthwhile on the lightning setup. And then finishing up, Rainy Season. This one's pretty amazing, so it increases all skill damage dealt to enemies by a whopping 30% and the required stamina by 30%. If you're running this, then you would need to get some stamina recovery in your kit or you will run dry. The next tree, this is the one that's all about the knockdown abilities and doing high guard damage, and it's the Air Current class skills. So you have Calm Before the Storm, increases Air Current class skill guard damage by 28%. If you're going for a build that's really all about guard damage, not really sure how feasible it would be, but if you did want to go for that particular kind of build, then you would go for this specialisation here. You have Headwind, increases dodge skill gauge recovery by 35%. That could be decent enough for survivability, I suppose. Protection of the Wind is the next one, 75% chance to recover 60% of consumed stamina when using an Air Current class skill. This would work really nice alongside Rainy Season if you were to use that for an Air Current class skill, so you would do more damage, it would cost more stamina, but you would have a chance of getting a fair amount of that stamina actually back. Now, finishing up here, tying in with the guard break mechanic for this tree, you've got Gale Force, which increases recovery time by 67.5% after enemy's guard is broken. So you could probably get quite a fun build with the wind tree. It's all about knocking enemies down, knocking them up, knocking them back, breaking their guard, and when you break their guard it would actually last for longer as well. So if anyone out there is an actual whale and have invested in this setup, then let me know how you are getting on with it, because I'm definitely intrigued. But again, if I was to choose any setup, I would go for the lightning one for her. Now, next up, let's talk about some of the skills that are available. Heroes then have 32 different abilities in total. I'm not going to talk about all of them because it would take an age, so I've selected 8 interesting abilities from each of the trees to show off a different aspect of Storm. Now, this one here, it allows us to see the shock debuff, so you can see it decreases attack by 25% for 7 seconds upon reaching max stat count. On your supervillains, it can hit really hard. This really does pull their damage down. In regards to damage, this pulls your damage up on supervillains, so this is the great lightning single target ability I was talking about there. Next one we have, it's an Air Current class skill. This one I'm showing off because you can see the crowd control element in it. It levitates the enemies for 4.5 seconds, which is really a nice amount of time. That'll be when the skill lands, you do that. Icicle Crash is up next. Talking about this for 2 reasons. One, it stacks chill. You can see you decrease movement, speed and dodge rate by 30% for 7 seconds upon reaching max stacks. That will apply to mobs and supervillains. For just mobs, you get the second element, which is it freezes them for 4 seconds upon reaching the max stat count. Now, this is the defensive ability I talked about earlier on. It's possibly the best defensive ability in the game. So with this, you become immune to damage and debuffs for 4 seconds. Nothing can hit you at all. Now, without spoiling anything, the final boss in the game is one you fight in a very small arena, and he will do a huge AoE that will one-shot you every so often, but actually playing through him on Storm, it was laughably easy, because every time he was about to do that AoE, I would just cast a skill and I would just stand there. So absolutely amazing. Make sure you take this when you're going into any boss fights. Next up we have lightning attack. The reason I'm showing this off is just that Storm has quite a few abilities that will lay down a dot in a particular area, and as long as the enemy doesn't move from that area, then you can do a nice amount of damage to them. Next one here, I'm just going to call it Wall of Wind. The actual name I cannot say, and it's took me about 5 takes and I still can't get it right. So it's Wall of Wind. This one here, interesting, decreases cooldown by close to 30% for 8 seconds for your abilities that are on cooldown. So you'll fire off your abilities with a higher cooldown first, follow up with this, and you'll get them back a lot sooner. We then have Pressure Manipulation. This one here I'm showing off just because it's one of these abilities that manipulates the enemy. It will knock them back or knock them down. In this instance, it actually lifts them up. So form a crowd control there. And then finishing up that abilities, we have Deep Freeze and Whiteout. This is just a really nice ability. It does a lot of damage. It's a huge AoE, and it can apply Chill as well. I'll quickly show you the ultimate here. There's nothing really that interesting about it though, but the ultimate, you can see that you apply shock when you actually fire it off, and it's got a high guard break as well. But that is some of the more interesting skills. Let's now talk about the outfits that are available for her. Your end-game goal then when it comes to costumes is that you eventually want to craft a regional outfit. Until you do that, in regards to the non-regional outfit that I would recommend, I would say the 80s outfit. This has got the 4-set bonus of buffing Weather Witch. That's that single target lightning ability. So when you're working your way through story, when you're doing blitzes and raids, trying to grind out your regional costume, this will make that a lot easier. In regards to the regional, of course it would depend on the actual class tree you're looking to run. If you're looking to run the Air Current, the Deep Freeze, or the Lightning, personally I would recommend the Lightning one. So that leaves you with the option of Hydra Empire or Sanderf outfit. So you can see with the Hydra Empire, the free set bonus, because set 2 and 4 are the same for both of them, but the free set bonus is crit rate, and then on the Sanderf suit the free set bonus is defense pierce. So without a doubt you want to go for the Hydra one. Crit rate is just so much better than defense pierce. Not to say defense pierce is bad, but flat crit rate is really pretty amazing. So that's the outfits I would recommend on her. Next up we have the battle badges. For the battle badges here, the one you always start off with would be your Maestro Blitz one. This is the one that you would farm first. You'll get your super villain damage on this, so that's really nice because she doesn't have any trouble taking out mobs, but bosses can take a little bit longer, and this can help you take them out a whole lot quicker. In regards to when you actually get into the Dark Zone and the different sets that are available, of course all these stats could be useful in most ways, apart I would say from some of the very niche ones like surface to air damage, but the majority of them are useful, but I wouldn't say any of them are really must have. So what I would actually say to do is focus on the bonus stats that actually can drop on your badges as well, and use them to actually tailor the build the way you want to. Don't feel forced to run a set bonus if you've got some nice bonus stats on a group or a series of different badges. Now the next section, it will be the Omega cards. With the Omega cards then, I broke them into 2 different infographics. You have this first one which is your free to play set, and then we have our second one which contains special cards you can only actually get within the store. Now in regards to the ones I would recommend on Storm, firstly you've got Sanderf 4, so you've got your super villain and villain damage increase. You've got your stamina recovery, which is really nice for that specialisation where your attacks will do more damage but they'll actually cost more stamina, so that works really nice there. You also have the Dark Zone free set. This particular one you're doing increased villain damage, crit damage, defense pierce and super villain damage. Then on top of that as well, you've actually got your 2-set bonus of additional attack damage and your 4-set bonus of total damage that I believe scales exceptionally well. So what you could actually do looking at these 2 sets is you could use 4 cards from Dark Zone free, and then you could use 2 cards from Sanderf. That would actually work out really nice there. So that's the free to play set. Let's look at the next one. So with these sets then, next to the name of the particular set, I've actually mentioned how many special cards you need. Special cards only drop within the store, so you only complete this if you're actually spending in the game. Now, looking at the sets, of course you've got your PvP ones, which will be Dark Zone 4 and Dark Zone 5. If you're really focused on the PvP side of things, make a beeline for Dark Zone 4. Outside of that, looking at the freer sets that are available from a PvE perspective, I would probably prefer to use the cards we were talking about in the previous infographic, where you use 4 from one set and then 2 from the other. That's the ones I would go for instead, and they will be much easier to actually farm as well. So that's all that mega cards. What we do now to finish up the video is we look at some of the fun build options that are available on her. For this section here, I will just quickly mention that these aren't in-depth builds or anything like that. I've not whipped out a spreadsheet and calculated all the damage. This video is a beginner's guide to give you an introduction to Storm, so this is an introductory build that is fun to play around with. At a later date, when I've been able to invest in heroes more, then I'll look to do more in-depth build videos for them. But the first one we're showing off here, this is your DPS lightning build. You would use your Hydra regional set, and if I was to build Storm, this is the one I would go for. But we're starting off, the first two abilities are AoE dots, so they're nice for just softening up your mobs. Once you've softened them up, you can then move over to this third ability here, that's the Weather Witch and Electrocution. Great for taking out any enemies are left, and great on bosses as well. Following on from that, with this particular setup, because it's all about doing damage, I would use that Specialisation. It increases your damage by 30%, but also your stamina consumption, so you could actually use this ability here to help you actually keep your stamina up. Finishing up, just in case we need it, because this would be your DPS set, so you're focusing on damage rather than survivability, I would use this particular ability here. That was that defensive one that gives you the 4 seconds of invulnerability, and I would save that for when your dodges potentially run out. But that's the first build. Let's check out the next one. So this second build then, it's a support crowd control deep freeze build. You would run the Sakar regional set with this one. So it's all about adding debuffs and giving support to your teammates. So the first ability we have, it's an AoE chill ability. So you apply your chill, you decrease movement speed and dodge rate, and you've got your chance for freezing mobs as well. We've then got another AoE chill ability here with this second one, which is deep freeze and whiteout. We follow that up, quite similar to the lightning build, with a single target ability. So we use our AoEs first, we take out the majority of the mobs, and then if you're left with an elite or a boss, then you've got your single target ability to whittle them down, and all the attacks will be going on just that solitary enemy. We then have a really nice skill that I probably should have talked about in the actual skills section. So this one here, great support ability. It increases dodge rate by close to 30% for 8 seconds. Now that's for Storm and her allies as well, which is really pretty amazing. Now finishing up with this build here, we are dropping in a little bit of defense. So this particular setup, you can see it's deep freeze once again. So if you're running the deep freeze spec, you actually benefit from having more of the skills. But this one here, you can increase defense. In this instance, it's at level 10, and you're getting an increase of 42.75% for 10 seconds there. So with that covered, that really should be everything you need to know about Storm for Marvel Future Revolution. And I have done beginner's guides for the other 7 launch characters, so if you enjoyed this video, feel free to check them out. If you enjoyed the video, please take the time to hit a like, share and subscribe, and leave a comment below. Leaving comments is exceptionally important. YouTube recommends your videos based on the engagement it actually gets from the people watching them. So yeah, as always, hope this has been helpful. Thanks for tuning in, stay safe, I'll see you all again soon.